Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty intense. We're taking a deep, clinical look at a dark and complex topic, the systematic deconstruction of the human mind. We're calling it the architecture of psychological erasure. Throughout this explainer, we're going to explore the exact methodologies, the historical patterns, and the deeply calculated science behind exactly how human resistance is dismantled. It's heavy stuff, I know, but understanding the precise mechanics of how the mind can literally be engineered and broken down, that's absolutely crucial to understanding the foundations of human psychology itself. Section 1. The reality of welcome parties. Okay, let's dive into this. When you hear the phrase welcome party, your brain naturally jumps to, cake, balloons, friendly faces. It's this universally positive thing, right? But in the context of some of the world's most feared detention centers, this phrase takes on a really chilling, paradoxical meaning. We kind of have to strip away that friendly language to look at the stark reality hiding behind those cheerful words. So it forces us to ask a pretty unsettling question. What exactly happens at a prison welcome party? Imagine being thrown into a totally hostile, terrifying environment where the literal language used by your captors is intentionally designed to disorient you. That narrative tension, it starts before anybody even lays a finger on you. It begins with these cheerful euphemisms masking something profoundly grim. It's a linguistic manipulation designed to throw your mind off balance right out of the gate. As our source material defines them, welcome parties and flying carpets are horrific realities of interrogation and torture. They're established, documented methods used in these fear detention centers globally. And that immediate cognitive dissonance, calling a brutal interrogation tactic a flying carpet, that acts as the very first sledgehammer to the victim's psyche. To give you an idea of the specific methodology here, the flying carpet technique typically involves strapping a prisoner to a hinged wooden board. The board is then literally folded in half, bringing the person's head all the way down to their feet. It causes immense physical strain and complete disorientation. It's a highly calculated method to warp reality the exact second they walk through the door. You're terrified, trapped in agony, and your captors are casually using the language of a children's storybook. The psychological erasure really starts right there, in that gap between the innocent language and the brutal reality. Section 2. Patterns of psychological warfare. And this brilliantly illustrates how it's so easy to look at these isolated modern examples, like those twisted euphemisms we just talked about, and just assume they're unique modern aberrations. But when we zoom out and look at the data, we realize breaking a human mind isn't a new invention at all. No way. It's actually part of a massive, macro-historical pattern spanning centuries. We can see this historical continuity by comparing ancient and modern tactics. Think about ancient emperors conducting psychological sieges. They realized pretty quickly that starving out a heavily fortified city took way too long and cost way too many resources. So instead, they'd use these terrifying psychological displays. They'd catapult harrowing objects over the walls, use deafening drums, or create these horrific visual warnings to literally terrify entire populations into submission before a single sword was swung at the gates. Fast forward to modern state-sanctioned torture, specifically places like the Sidnaya prison in Syria. The tools have evolved from catapults to sensory deprivation isolation cells, sure, but the fundamental blueprint, weaponizing fear to erase resistance, that remains exactly the same. The specific term human slaughterhouse is used in our sources to describe Sedina, and that really reflects the mass-scale, systematic nature of the place. Looking at this operationally, this isn't just about physical confinement. It is an organized, industrial-level operation designed entirely for psychological warfare. It basically takes those ancient emperors' siege tactics and applies them to an enclosed captive population with the efficiency of a factory assembly line. It uses utter silence, absolute darkness, and sudden, highly regimented bursts of violence to just keep the nervous system in a constant state of erratic overdrive. It's psychological destruction on an industrial scale. The whole environment is meticulously structured. Every routine, every corridor, every single interaction is optimized to systematically dismantle a prisoner's sense of self. Section 3. The science of erasure. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it shows us exactly how this actually works on a granular psychological level. We've looked at the ancient history and the modern scale, but we really need to zoom in on the precise mechanics. There is a rigorous methodological aspect to how the human mind is broken down. It's a calculated science. A prime, highly technical example of this psychological erasure is known as the Mr. Big technique. Now, this isn't just some basic intimidation in a dark room. It's an elaborate, structured psychological operation, often used in undercover interrogations to extract information. Imagine a suspect who absolutely refuses to talk.
Instead of questioning them directly, law enforcement creates a massive, totally fictitious criminal syndicate. An undercover agent steps in to act as the powerful, omnipotent criminal boss, Mr. Big. The whole operation relies heavily on manipulating social dynamics, exploiting human vulnerabilities, and weaponizing our most basic psychological need for safety and belonging.
Let's actually walk through how this functions step by step, because it's fascinating. Step 1 is establishing rapport. Undercover operatives slowly build a relationship with the target. They might pay them for minor, easy tasks, buy them drinks, gradually introduce them to this fake crime family. The target starts to feel valued, included, right? Then, step 2 introduces threats. Once trust is locked in, the operatives manufacture a massive, high-stakes problem. They might fake a scenario where an aggressive police investigation is suddenly closing in on the target for a past crime. Suddenly, the target feels completely trapped, isolated, and in extreme legal danger. And that brings us to step 3, force the confession. The target is brought directly to Mr. Big, and the boss offers absolute protection. He tells them he has corrupt cops on the payroll and can make the terrifying threat completely disappear. But only if the target provides every single detail of their previous crime, so Mr. Big knows exactly what mess he's cleaning up. It's this exact push-pull dynamic, this severe psychological whiplash between the manufactured terror of the fake police dragnet and the manufactured safety offered by the crime boss that totally exhausts the brain's cognitive defenses and ultimately extracts the confession.
Section 4. Industrialized Behavior Engineering.
So the crucial point is that we've reached the climax of our explainer today, and I want you to prepare for a complete shift in your perspective. If we look closely at the evidence we've covered, from the deceptive, disorienting language of welcome parties to the historical city sieges, all the way down to the calculated push-pull mechanics of the Mr. Big technique, we have to fundamentally rethink why these systems are built in the first place. The old narrative tells us these detention systems exist simply for punishment. A primitive reactive response to bad behavior. You do something wrong, you get punished after the fact. But the new narrative reveals the true reality derived from the data. This is industrialized behavior engineering. These acts aren't just mere punishment. They are a cold, highly proactive system engineered specifically to dismantle and completely rewire human behavior from the inside out. According to the sources, this industrialized system basically has two primary, chillingly efficient goals. The first is extracting information. That means using these scientific techniques to bypass a person's natural cognitive defenses to get exactly what the interrogator wants, just like we saw with that elaborate Mr. Big setup. But the second, and honestly perhaps the more profound goal, is extracting dignity. By systematically stripping away a person's dignity through euphemisms, constant fear, physical exhaustion, and total loss of autonomy, the system effectively erases their core identity. When a person is deprived of their basic human dignity, they lose their anchor to their own humanity. The sources indicate that dignity is intrinsically tied to the psychological will to resist. When that dignity is entirely removed, the internal framework that allows a person to say no completely crumbles. Which leaves us with this final haunting thought. When dignity is engineered away, what remains of the human mind? It's a really stark reminder of the underlying architecture of our own consciousness, and it highlights just how fragile our psychological defenses truly are when subjected to a systematic scientific siege. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive. I will see you in the next explainer.